world, yeah, yeah. I'ma rule the world, I'ma rule the world, yeah. 색다른 느낌으로 만드는 맛 나만의 세상 만들어 장악 I'ma rule the world, I'ma rule the world, yeah, yeah. I'ma rule the world, I'ma rule the world, yeah. 해가 지고 뜰 때까지 I'm up, yeah.
Canada just dropped what they're calling a bold federal budget. And look, bold can mean a lot of things. Bold like we're spending more money than ever, or bold like we're taking risks and trusting they'll pay off. Either way, this budget lands at a moment when global tariffs are up, uncertainty is rising, and Canada is trying to completely reset its economic game plan. Sound familiar? We're talking housing, defense, infrastructure, and affordability. Massive moves that could shape the next 20 years. The two sides will say it's necessary and generational, while others say it's reckless and making future generations bear the burden. Tonight, I sit down with some friends to discuss how this impacts Gen Z, the future for Canadians, with differing perspectives to explore whether or not this budget is generational in the worst or best ways. First off, I just want to introduce all three of you. So we have Mustafa, Arshia, and Ashley. And publicly, you're all liberals, which I think is a unique angle. I'm prepared to play devil's advocate with this discussion. But in saying that, I'm excited to chat about it with you three because I know that not all of you support every single decision that was made. You're very critical of what you see. And so we can get into that a little bit more in detail. But in saying that, this was a generational budget for the masses, for Canada. I want to know what has changed to incite this level of a budget. Mustafa, I'll let you start off.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me over again. I think that we're in such a pivotal moment with the relationship with the United States, which has been our biggest partner for the last 60, 70 years. And this budget is something that's going to tackle the tariffs that have been put on our country and pretty much set up what is going to be our next sort of steps with the economic outlook.
Arshia, what are your thoughts?
I mean, just going to bounce on that a bit, but yeah, the budget is very geared towards the tariffs. I mean, we all know this has been the headlines in Canada for the last 6 months. But yeah, billions of dollars of support for tariffs. But more importantly, we're seeing as the world is evolving and becoming more dangerous with actors like Russia and China, the budget also has a focus on defense. For the first time in decades, we're seeing defense be prioritized. And
I found it interesting. And we have a whole segment on defense that I'm excited to touch on in this two-part series. But one of the things about defense was we told the United States we wouldn't hit the defense spending target of NATO in 5, 10 years? And now we hit it this year. Wow, surprise. Ashley, what were your thoughts? How has this changed and what's inside of this?
Right, to your point, I'm not surprised that we met that because there are those background talks with Trump and the administration. So just because we think that things are stalled, we always know that something or someone is in the background still making things, still making moves. So I think a lot of that might be from those conversations that they did have with the administration to make sure that they're hitting certain benchmarks.
I also just want to say something, and I'm going to throw this out there for anybody who wants to passionately jump in. Our GDP growth has not actually been growing the last 10 years. It's literally been basically stagnant, our real GDP growth. So if we understand that, then is it safe to say that maybe this budget was due 5, 10 years ago for infrastructure investment that we could have been reaping the benefits of today? What are your guys' thoughts?
I would say it definitely stagnated a lot during the COVID period and the COVID era after that.
Even before that, though.
Yeah. I would say that given how our outlook with the relationship with the United States, a lot of the industries are interlinked. So our country's been stagnant because of that. Now through this budget, which you're right, we should have taken a few years ago, this is a bold budget that's going to help us set those boundaries and those new industries which we desperately need.
Well, I think we also relied heavily on oil and gas in Canada.
Yeah.
And now that that's kind of up for debate, up for grabs, there's some things that are changing. We're starting to see we need to have more independence. Ashley, what are your views? Do you think this was supposed to be something that we gave 5, 10 years ago?
Even 20 years ago. So we're going back to the Harper era, right? When we're looking at certain things that it's always hard to be that administration that pulls the Band-Aid off, right? To make those hard decisions that sets up success for other generations. And so I think that that's why this one kind of flopped when it came to the messaging and for it to be so generational, because a lot of people thought, wow, we're really expecting to see some things in this. And when all of a sudden there wasn't more social programs, there weren't certain things towards affordability, a lot of people are scratching their heads saying, how does this help us?
Do you think people would rather take a deficit or a balanced budget? A deficit, by the way, yes, for social services, or just take a balanced budget?
I think right now, as you so I think, pointed out in the introduction, we needed something bold. Like, it's difficult times.
But is bold spending more money?
I mean,
Bold could be actually cutting things and trying to balance the budget.
There's a good difference. There's a difference between good debt and bad debt. Money, if you're spending in areas which can help our GDP and our GDP per capita grow. And also there's money where we desperately need to spend, like you said, the military and different projects.
Okay, I'm going to leave it right there. We'll be back. Stay tuned for more.
I'ma rule the world, I'ma rule the world, yeah. I'ma rule the world, I'ma rule the world, yeah.
All right, and we're back. Mustafa, I want to jump over to you. You had said something. There's a difference between good debt and bad debt. Do you think we give enough money to provinces for healthcare transfers? Yes or no?
I think yes, but there's also
Do you
difference.
think we do give enough?
So that's where I will disagree with something that we might share. Provinces are responsible for allocating the funds for healthcare, not the federal government.
Right.
I can give you the money to use on whatever. It's your job to invest it in the areas that matter the most.
So, but see, in my view, I think to myself sometimes, I'm like, well, yes, there is a difference between good and bad debt. Businesses do it all the time. But to what point is it bad debt when your debt transfers are making up more, your interest payments on that debt are making up more than the health transfers that we are so-called underfunding according to the liberals right now and the conservatives. So that's where I wonder, at what point do we have to start looking at that and saying, holy, what if we had that extra $50 billion a year? Not saying we never go in debt, but do you get what I'm saying?
Agreed. Yeah.
But that was in this budget. There were certain funds to go ahead and have certain clinics and things. But again, the provinces have to staff them. We have to have educated people. We have to have trained people in order to really advance in that sector.
So I want to touch on tariffs because we only have so much time and I have a lot of questions regarding this. One of the things I wanted to point out, Canada's GDP per capita hasn't grown in a decade. Do tariffs explain that, or is that a symptom of a deeper issue that we haven't discussed? Because we blame everything on tariffs. We love to blame Trump's tariff strategy against Canada or against the world for why we're in this situation. But this situation is not just because of tariffs, or am I crazy?
Oh, I mean, like these tariffs, these have just been in the last year, realistically speaking. I mean, globally, the economy struggled. Post-COVID, it's been problems from every country. But yes, of course, we can look at the numbers in Canada's GDP per capita has not grown as expected. And a lot of that will come back to, priorities. And I think this budget has deemed that the priorities are now the economy. And so you're looking at record spending, tariff supports, and I think, this budget that probably should have come earlier.
What did you guys see in the budget that addresses tariffs? What did we see?
I would say looking at different global partners, which has been one of the biggest ones, diversifying, dropping the interprovincial trade barriers, that will automatically grow our GDP per capita by $5,000 right off the bat.
Right.
And that's a smart move that I think that we should have done time ago.
Okay, so let me ask a devil's advocate question. I know that you're all liberal, but you have no problem picking the government apart. In what ways did you see the government not address the tariffs? Like, are there certain things that we're not doing or that we should be doing that we're not doing right now?
Right off the hop, we went to go strong pushing against, the administration, and then we clawed them back. So again, that's just advancing those conversations. And so some people will say, it can be Captain Canada where it's Ford and he's coming out strong. But then others are like, can you not do that because you're not speaking for all the voices of all the premiers and everyone else in Canada? So it's such a balancing act.
So let me ask you guys this. One of the things that we have to address in the budget, because we also saw the Liberal government excuse this, and by the way, we saw the provincial government discuss this as well, which is a Conservative government. So both sides say, well, we're spending more money because we have relief packages. Are relief packages going to solve the challenge that we're facing against the United States with tariffs? No. So why are we spending so much money on relief packages when we could be doing other things to counteract? I mean, yes, I understand that certain things will struggle now, but why can't we do other things with that money if we're spending it anyways to counteract and actually bring investment here? Is that not a long-term solution?
I would say in the short term, we desperately need that for those people that have lost their jobs. They have no safety net. That is the thing that Canada's...
Companies have moved out of Canada anyways. They've closed. We lost 28,000 jobs in Q2.
Yeah, that's where I think that Canada relied so much on the United States, which it shouldn't have. This is something we should have done decades ago. Generations ago, but this is the brunt and the
So can I ask this,
right
Arshia, I'm curious to throw this to you. Is the world of Canada relying on the United States over?
As this main go-to, yes. I think we're going to see over the next decades that we're going to be shifting to other partners in Asia.
Is that
and
an
Europe.
idealistic view, though? Because, quite frankly, the United States is a massive trading partner for us.
And they will probably stay our largest trading partner. Like that, they
Okay,
should be
okay.
our, like they are a market. We share a lot in common. Like they should be our largest trading partner. Nobody's denying that. But the days of them being our only, for the most part, trading partner have to end.
So did we see anything in the budget that allows us to negotiate closer with the United States? One thing I'll point out is Trump had demanded, and I covered this in a previous episode, Stephen Moran's report before he entered. They said, you need to meet 2% defense spending target according to NATO. Clearly, Carney's government takes that seriously. What else did we see? We got about 20 seconds here. Do we know? Was there anything else?
I mean, in terms of actually like moving away, or I guess with Trump, you're looking at basically targeted supports to industries that move us outwards, like new ports, for example, like Churchill's port expansion. That's going to allow us to trade more with other countries. So you're looking at direct investment that creates a capacity to have options. And that's what we have not had for a long time, options.
Okay,
And this budget
we'll
creates
leave it there.
options.
Thank you, guys. Stay tuned for more. Segment 3, the government's big bet. We're building the Canadian economy.
I'ma rule the world, I'ma rule the world, yeah. I'ma rule the world, I'ma rule the world, yeah.
Now, the government says this budget is a big reset, rebuilding the economy through major projects, productivity boosts, and a brand new industrial strategy. So what does that actually look like? Arshia, I want to throw this one over to you. What does this infrastructure strategy look like in the real quick 15 seconds?
It means building our domestic capacity. It means creating jobs. It means creating a future, like I said prior, that Canada has options, be it east, west, in our own provinces, or to other countries in Asia, Europe, Africa. It's about building our future and building options.
Okay, so here's my concern. We're announcing something, but we're not actually executing on it. I feel like this isn't the first time that any sort of government in Canada has talked about a productivity budget. What's different this time? How do we know the execution is going to be well?
So if I could pair, just get in here,
Yeah.
I'm going to pair this with Bill C5. So Bill C5 was a budget that's designed to basically fast track these things. One of the portions of Bill C5 is that projects that are deemed of national interest can get fast tracked through the major projects office. So yes, the intent is there, but for the first time, we're seeing a pathway through which these can be achieved. So we're now actually accelerating accreditation for projects, having one approval progress instead of two process. And so it is promise paired with actual policy to make it possible.
Mustafa, your thoughts?
I would say for the first time in our history, we've had a unification of the country to go forward. We have provinces agreeing on things that they probably would never have. And this is actually one of the biggest scientific factors that are helping us boost these projects.
Okay, I would agree on that. And one of the things I want to give credit to, $51 billion over 10 years for a Build Community Strong fund. Now, I know that this goes into major infrastructure projects, but come on, guys. Does the government have a great track record of major mega projects?
Well, here's
Getting
the thing.
done on time and on
Here's the
budget?
thing. A lot of people said that they were mad that a lot of these announcements were things that were already kind of happening, that they thought that it fell flat that way. But at the same time, like you said, if we're passing different bills in order to get things done, people are sick of red tape. They're sick of the delays. And so even though they're upset that maybe, shovels weren't in the ground yet with a lot of these things, at least we're going to see them actually be moved to completion.
Okay. So a couple other things just really quick. So we've got $17 billion over 10 years to support infrastructure projects in housing, healthcare, and education. We've got $5 billion over 3 years dedicated specifically to new health infrastructure funds. And then we've got 27 or 28 billion for local bridges, roads, water systems, community centers, that sort of thing. What responsibility is the federal government taking? Like, it almost seems like they're pulling away the responsibility of municipalities. Will this then almost cause some level of municipalities relying on the federal government to build these sort of infrastructure projects or fund them, and without them, it won't get done? Like, are we building reliance on the federal government is kind of what I'm getting to.
I would say right now, municipalities are heavily downloaded with the responsibilities from the provinces. They're limited on funds. Property taxes keep going up. I would say that some sort of relief from the federal government must be much needed to get some of these projects through.
And to just kind of, if I can quickly chime in, I think one of the big points of emphasis of this budget is working in partnership. Like, it's the federal government working with the provincial government, with Indigenous governments, with municipal governments. It's about bringing Canada together and working together to get things done. And I think
Okay, if
that's
we
so
compare ourselves to the United States, I know that this is a step up, but in reality, the United States is investing 10 times more in absolutely every facet of what we're investing in. For example, I was really impressed with Canada investing into quantum computing technology, because that's something, I mean, we kind of missed the boat on AI. I'll give the government credit. When I saw that in the budget, I was like, wow, this is really innovative. We're 10 years out from really strong quantum computing. If you don't know what that is, there was a test done by D-Wave. They were able to get a police respondent done 40% quicker through quantum computing. So it's a wonderful investment. Canada can make a lot of money from it. But the United States is also investing in that at a way bigger multiple.
Yep.
So is Canada trying to be everything to all people? Are there certain things that we should be looking to invest in? Where do we feel like we maybe fall short?
It's an innovation that we have to be in that sector. So that is part of underneath the.
But is it money water under the bridge where it's almost no
'cause
point?
I think we have skilled people. Like, it's supposed to be that brain drain, right? So even though you can compare us to the US, we still will have those innovators here in Canada, and we have to harness that, and we still have to build upon that.
And I'll just quickly jump in there. And I mean, there's been too many of our academics going south. So if we're creating these spaces so that Canadians who study Canadian universities can stay here and innovate and create Canadian jobs and create a future where Canada is a leader in the tech sector.
So do we feel that the government showed support for
Yes.
business, for startups, and for big business in their new budget?
Absolutely. I mean, to touch up on the 10 times more mark, there are certain industries that are more developed in the United States compared to Canada. So that's why you need to spread the money out a little bit. But there's a lot of brain drain in the US as well. We can be bringing that talent here because a lot of international students who bring all these talents, all these expertise, they don't have a long-term plan in the US because they don't get the guaranteed citizenship.
One thing
Canada
that
can
I
offer
feel, just have about 10 seconds here, I feel like the budget missed the mark when it came to trying to figure out negotiations with the United States. I still feel like that's up in the air. We've lost so many jobs to it. We'll talk about that a little bit more in the next segment, but stay tuned for more. Canada's also climate competitiveness strategy. Stay tuned.
I'ma rule the world, I'ma rule the world, yeah. I'ma rule the world, I'ma rule the world, yeah.
Canada is trying to compete in a low carbon world. I don't even know if it's possible, but we're going to talk about it. From critical minerals to clean energy tax credits, this is the climate strategy that's supposed to fuel future growth. Does it hold up? Guys, let's be honest. Can we compete against the United States with the climate goals that we have?
Yes.
Really?
Yes, and especially
You don't think our climate goals hold back innovation? For example, a 10-year long approval on a mine on average?
they can, but then there's certain strategies we have to at least meet the Paris Agreement. Like, we have certain benchmarks and tools that we have to utilize.
Okay, so hear me out. I understand that portion, but when we also have a sincere productivity problem, an innovation problem, as well, the government's racking up an insane amount of debt, so they need a tax base to come back to Canada, because we've seen tax base completely leave Canada. How do we justify intense climate goals? Like, the Liberal government has taken a significant step back from 2035 now to 2050. Why?
So, I mean, we'll talk about the failures of the budget in terms of climate, but I mean, in terms of necessity to act, I mean, we saw wildfires ravage the country from Nova Scotia to BC. Like, the realities of climate change are not a faraway future. They're here now.
Mhm.
And if we don't act, the economic cost of that is going to be more than any like slowdowns from approvals.
Okay, I'm going to bring that back. I understand where you're coming from. I think that is a stretch to say that, and we only have 5 minutes to talk about it. I mean, there could be a lot of debate on what causes wildfires, if it was only climate change. We can debate that another day. But one of the things I want to talk about, critical mineral infrastructure. This is something that the province of Ontario I've been really impressed with, and their approval for mines is actually significantly lower than the national average, which I think is really awesome. But does Canada trying to be a critical mineral leader, which it can be, contradict with its goal for being a climate, a strong climate, low carbon, climate-based country?
I would say the government should have some sort of oversight on how these companies are mining. Definitely, there's nothing wrong with mining, especially now. We are in such a tough spot. Critical mining is critical for our economy. There's a need for it, there's a market for it, and Canada can absolutely utilize that. And that can be done through policies that can work with companies to lower
Okay.
emissions as well.
So you're saying there has to be a happy medium?
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Is there a happy medium when we're now supporting oil and gas infrastructure on a scale that we haven't in the last 10 years? Like, so we have that. Plus, we also have now supporting major critical mineral infrastructure projects. Like, we're completely changing our tune.
But
Yeah.
we're also supporting nuclear and isotopes and,
Yeah.
and modular, like small.
Small modular nuclear
yeah.
reactors. We also have carbon capture technology in the budget. We talk about decarbonization as well. I mean, yes, it is a bit of a contradictory, I agree, but you can go about, the whole decision of net zero. There is ways to offset what you're doing. It doesn't have to be one or the other. It has to be with consideration, I would
I'm
say.
not sure the our greenhouse gases necessarily care about whether we offset with a tax or with a carbon credit. Like I was laughing when the new Audi, the electric Audi came out and said that they're low carbon, they're zero carbon footprint. Meanwhile, they just use carbon credits that they purchased. That doesn't make you no carbon in the air. That's like, come on, seriously. But that's what we're actually pushing right now. We're pushing that.
I mean, 5 years ago, if you were to ask me, should Canada build an oil pipeline, I would probably say no. But I think given these LNG and oil pipeline projects, take the profits to use that and offset it for greener projects in the future.
So, but that's something that's been of conversation for so many years. The Conservatives have been pushing that really hard. Now the tune changes when the Liberal leader comes out and says, this is what we need to do.
Desperate times calls for desperate measures, and we need to grow our industry. And
So
that's
one
where
could
we're at
say
right
we
now.
could have avoided those desperate times, but it is what it is. So one of the things I want to ask, so Canada could become a major player if we do move fast enough, but Canada's not known for moving fast. What in the budget makes us move faster? Arshia, I want to throw this to you because I know that this is a passionate topic for you. What do you see?
Just going back to, so it might not be in the budget, but the government has put forward policies that are going to accelerate approvals. I mean, you talked about how mining approvals in Canada are notoriously slow. And so the government's moving forward with a one approval policy. So if the province approves something, we're going to get behind that. No longer will it be a provincial and a federal approval, which slows things down. So it is, we need to act quick. And you're absolutely right there. And I think the budget does also prioritize the Ring of Fire, which is in Ontario's development. And so we are seeing that attention towards critical minerals at a faster pace.
Okay, well, I definitely support that. I mean, Ontario's average permitting for mines is about 4 years, but BC's about 13. So what is the federal government going to say to BC to make them move faster and approve something faster? Because if the buck stops with the province, then sorry, we're out of time. I threw you a question that we can't answer it, but we'll get back to it. Thank you so much. That's all the time that we have for this episode, but join us for part 2 as we continue the conversation. And this is a good one. You're not going to want to miss it. And as always, if you want to hear from me again, feel free to reach out. If you disagreed or feel we missed something important, join the conversation at My Generation on all social media platforms. Do not simply accept what you are told. Challenge your thinking, engage in differences, and listen to new perspectives. Thank you.
I'ma rule the world, I'ma rule the world, yeah. 해가 지고 뜰 때까지 I'm up, yeah.